All right. Hello, Matt. So thank you for joining us today for this visit of the uh, Lancaster pirate ship for our port call. And so my first question to you is to ask you to tell us something about where you are right now.
Thanks, Manuel. Well, I'm in my house on the edge of Sheffield, and I'm impressed you got the pirate ship here. So I've got a river quite close by, but it's not navigable. So
Hmm.
yeah, I'm on this edge of this valley that was until recently a hive of industry from the early days of the Industrial Revolution. But since the extinction of the practices of the little meisters in the water-powered workshops about a century ago, the ancient
Hmm.
woodland that they displaced has returned. So it's quite a nice place to be living.
Nice. I can imagine. Yeah. And so globally, what do you do?
I'm a recruit of a bewildering range of practices. Is there anything particular you want to hear about? The livelihood.
Well, no, you're more like your plain daily activity, let's say.
Again, so like, but yeah, I earn a living by being a professor of geography at the University of Sheffield.
Mhm.
I've been there for soon be 19 years that I've been there.
Right.
And day to day, I mostly do admin and delete emails, but sometimes do research, working with practice theory and related approaches, often on interdisciplinary projects, working on issues of social change for sustainability, broadly around sort
Okay.
of reducing resource consumption.
Right. Yeah, so that's a perfect transition for Anna.
Yeah, so where in all of that administrative work did you encounter practice theory?
That was before I was doing lots of admin. It's a long time ago, and it's hard to know exactly when I engaged practice theory as practice theory. So I was doing a PhD over 25 years ago at Lancaster on conflicting understandings of places that happen to be important sites of biodiversity conservation. And my supervisor left after about a year of my PhD. I think it was because of me and my PhD that he left, but I was my supervisor and got this new supervisor called Elizabeth Shrove, who at
Mhm.
some point suggested I work with the idea of practice to kind of inform the work I was doing, particularly the analysis that I was doing from my research. And practice ended up as one of the three terms in the title of my thesis before the colon. So it was quite important by the time I submitted my thesis. But it wasn't practice theory as such.
Mm.
So, and there's some figures that I engaged that have ended up kind of in the history of practice theory, but
Mm.
at the time it wasn't practice theory. I mean, I kind of finished the writing about when the practice turn in social science got published. And of course, practice theory has a much longer history than the start of the new millennium, but there wasn't much kind of translation of it, I think, into empirically based social science at that time. So yeah, practice was kind of part of as an idea, and it's carrying some of the foundations of practice theory was part of what I was doing in my PhD, and I carried it into the first of my postdocs. But I think I only really felt like I was starting to engage practice theory as theory in a research project that was kind of my third postdoc on the role of product designers' practices in shaping consumption practices. And yeah, so I was a co-I and researcher with a PI that was called Elizabeth Shrove, I think. But and the books that we produced from that, we did engage with practice theory. There's bits of the books that talk about practice theory. So definitely by then I was working with practice theory. So I
Mm.
guess that's kind of sometime in the early 2000s. I transitioned from talking about practice to thinking, oh, I'm working with practice theory.
That's nice. And what attracted you to practice theory?
Sorry about the noise. I thought the electrician had finished doing the drilling.
No.
So it's a long time ago. I mean, theories are attractive. Can you hear me okay? the drilling. Yeah. Theories are attractive when they're useful for thinking with and useful to shape and enable research to happen. And I don't know when I've kind of realized that I'm quite sort of relational in orientation to kind of thinking about social research. But definitely during my PhD, I was part of a centre where most of the PhDs comprising the centre were working more or less with actor network theory. So that was kind of the more dominant theoretical framing in my thesis. And actor network theory, I think, kind of became so popular at that time, certainly in Lancaster, but more broadly as well, because it does some of that job of working with the profound complexity and relationality of social existence, and yet has concepts that help you to kind of make that empirically amenable in some ways. But I think I found actor network theory engaged kind of selectively and carefully to be really useful for that, but I still had frustrations with it. And part of that is the theoretical commitment to kind of radical symmetry that kind of makes sense to me at many levels, but it makes empirical work harder. If you're accounting for kind of human subjects as effects of networks of heterogeneous relations, it's kind of a difficult place to start with social research. And of course, the big empirical studies of actor network theory don't do all of that. They kind of tend to talk fairly unproblematically of human actors as actants in the phenomena they're talking about. But still, I think with practice theory, what I really liked was that, I don't know, it's contentious to claim this. I'm not alone in saying that practice theory kind of embraces that kind of relational understanding of social existence. And yet it brings concepts and convictions that are really kind of helpful for operationalizing that understanding through empirical research, and particularly the role of the practitioner, and more or less, again, these days slightly contentious, but the human practitioner, the sort of distinctive properties of the human practitioner in doing the competent creative work of bringing together complex relations in order to achieve the activities of everyday life through which social life is constituted. Yeah, I'm sure there must be more to say, but
and so what are the main ideas and concepts that you're working with right now?
So right now I'm writing on power still. Yeah, so I first finally got round to writing about power and practice theory about a decade ago, so it's kind of surprising that I'm doing it again. I haven't necessarily worked on it again, but through invites, it's kind of got me back into writing about power and practice theory. So writing on a chapter on power and the practices of policymaking for a handbook, and then Torek Holmes invited me to co-author a paper on trying to think about capacity as a way of sort of filling out understandings of power in relation to practice theory. And that's, if you understand power as kind of an effect of the performance of practices and as ubiquitous to practices, it's kind of quite hard to work with it empirically. It's something very ubiquitous and doesn't have kind of the properties of something that's easily empirically grasped. So working with capacity kind of fills that out and helps to engage questions of uneven distributions more directly, we think, and maybe makes kind of engaging with questions of power and the effects of power more empirically graspable. So we'll see how that goes when we submit it to the rigorous gaze of the editors for the Journal of Practice Theory.
Great.
Okay.
Well, I'm going
Yeah.
to become not Elizabeth Shove, but a venturing anthropologist. And I'm going to ask you about the tribes you belong to, because that's what anthropologists do. So you said you're a geographer, and probably you are, but do you see what tribes do you see yourself as part of? Are you a part of a practice theory tribe as well, or who do you hang out with these days?
Thanks, Elizabeth. You must be a very old anthropologist to be talking about tribes. So mostly hang out with other people who happen to be in a school of geography and planning, some of whom are indeed geographers, and a few of them are planners as well. In terms of who I discuss ideas with, who I do the intellectual work with, tends to be people in broadly sort of cultural, critical human geography space. And I'm lucky to have a number of colleagues who do engage with practice theory, and we do talk about that some, but it's not that I've got enough colleagues who are engaged enough with it. We've kind of got critical mass of feeling like we're a bunch of practice theorists.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
No, that makes sense.
But I'm lucky enough to be
yeah, so I'm not going to
groups.
Yeah.
That counts.
I'm not going to drill into your intellectual history because you've already described that. But I am going to say, well, we've had a great conversation. And have you got a souvenir from the outskirts of Sheffield or similar to give us?
You're in Sheffield, so it's got to be
wow
of Henderson's relish.
Ah, nice.
We will look forward to that on the boat and add it to our meagre rations. So thank you very much for that. If you could send me a picture, that would be great. Yeah. And then finally, because we're coming to an end, who on the map would you like us to visit next? Or even if they're not on the map, where should we go? I mean, Sheffield's a little bit inland. I mean, we can manage a canal, but where should we go in our boat next?
I thought I'd give you a challenging voyage because it's very hard to choose from so many interesting scholars. So I just went by geography and picked Rebecca Bednarek, that's it, at the University of Wellington, because she happens to be about at the antipode of Sheffield. So it's quite a long way for you, but I think
that's all right. We've got our relish to take with us, so we'll be fine. Yeah. We'll be fine.
Makes the wine biscuits much better.
It's only a little bottle, but never mind. Thank you, Matt, so much, and yeah, we'll be on our way.
Thanks.
Have a good voyage. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.